Hello everybody, I'm back again with some more card reveals for you to talk about today. We're going to analyse them a little bit. We've got quite a few new cards that have been revealed by content creators once again. Let's just jump right into, these cards, shall we? So the first one is Red Haze. It is a special for neutral, special card. And it is 6 provisions. It is the text of choose an enemy unit, then damage one adjacent enemy unit by its power. So kind of working like a budget treason. A pretty bad treason. Treason works on adjacent units, of course, and this only works on one adjacent unit. So you're getting about half the value of treason, I guess, a lot of the time. Treason is only 7 provisions. This is a 6 provision card, so pretty much instant impressions of this are it's a pretty bad card. Probably won't see play at all. I do not believe it's a tactic. I'm not 100% sure on that, but even if it was, I'm not sure it would see play in Nilfgaard or whatever. So kind of a bad card in general. Treason isn't a very good card already in Nilfgaard, even though it's a lot better than this. So I don't imagine Red Haze will ever be that competitive. There are definitely other options, tactics-wise that aren't treason and are better, which Nilfgaard will play. And yeah, Red Haze doesn't really fit a slot that most decks want to play. Being half as good as treason and only 6 compared to 7 provisions, not really very good. Not much more to say about that. Seems like a pretty weak removal spell, but I kind of like the effect. It's pretty cool. It can create some interesting situations, but I don't think it will be a very playable card either. Anyway, let's go to the next card, shall we? Next one is Svalblood Priest. This is 5 provisions for 2 strength unit. And every allied turn on turn end, you damage the allied unit to the right by 1, then boost self by 2. So for 5 provisions, you're getting Old Light Longship. This is what used to be working with great swords back in the day. Sorry, I'm a little bit in the way of that card text. But yeah, this used to be the good old great swords back in the day. Longship for those. You synergize, you damage them, buff the longship up every turn. This is a similar thing, you get a boost per turn every turn. It starts as a 4 strength unit and then +1 every turn. More if you can kind of synergize with that damaging effect. Self-wounding will enjoy that. Things like the, what's it called? I can't even remember the guy's name. The Protector? I don't know. The guy that boosts himself when adjacent units get damaged. Could work quite well with this, and also, of course, Berserk units which take damage from this guy would definitely profit from having that engine on the board. Only problem is that you need quite a few of these self-wounding engines around at the same time to get real value from it, and there's so much removal around that I don't see it being that powerful. But maybe. I mean, 4 for 5, effectively this isn't really a 4 for 5. You can kind of see it as a 3 for 5 because it comes down and damages for 2 and buffs 1, so you're effectively getting 1 point when it drops. 3 for 5 is very bad if it gets removed, so yes, 4 is harder to remove than a 3 strength unit, which is definitely a thing, but I just don't know. I can't confidently say that these kind of engine effects are going to be that good with the prevalence of removal at the moment, and probably after the expansion as well. But it's nice to see the effect come back. It might not be that strong, but maybe it will be, and I could be surprised by it. There's definitely some really strong Berserk cards, and if you want to, play engines with them, then of course this will work quite well with those. So, could be a hit, could be pretty powerful, but I'm going to say I don't think it will be. I'm happy to be wrong about that, though, because I really do like the effect. Anyway, next card is just a 2 strength Ekimara, whatever. It's part of the other cards we have to talk about here, I believe Katakan, which of course, both of these cards coming back, they did get removed at some point, I guess with Homecoming for other cards. Okay, next card we've got is the Travelling Merchant, a 5 provision 3 strength card for neutral, deploy on ranged, and shuffle a card from your hand into your deck, then draw a card. Alright, so kind of a weak effect, I think. 3 strength for 5 isn't good, obviously, so you need to get kind of 2-3 points at least from the ability. And the mulligan ability isn't very good, I don't think, which is basically what this is, right? It's kind of like a mulligan and you get another card. You can even get the card that you put back into your deck, back into your hand in theory if you're unlucky. I think this is pretty bad, to be honest. I don't think this will be a very playable card in any deck. We've already seen the mulligan effect kind of be very weak on things like the old Letho before it got changed to what it is now. I just don't see this effect being useful in kind of any deck. You know, in order to mulligan, you have to play a terrible card, so why not just play a better card and then you don't mulligan, but okay, you're not playing a bad card and then it's not as bad, right? Even if you mulligan a bad card and get a good card, you're still playing a 3-point boy to do that, which is obviously not very good. So, don't think this will be ever played. It seems very weak. Kind of an okay, cool effect, but definitely not as strong as it needs to be for 5 provisions, I don't think. Next we have Ducal Guard. This is a 4 provision Nilfgaard card for 3 strength. Or 3 strength for 4 provisions, I should say, and it has Assimilate, so a little bit more support for the Assimilate kind of archetype, which of course involves playing units that aren't in your starting deck. There are quite a few ways to proc Assimilate, as we've talked about before. You know, Imperial Diviner is another Assimilate card, so there are probably, you know, quite a few ways to actually play these kind of engines and get value from them. I'm just not sure this will be as good as options that Nilfgaard already has, things like Nausicaa Sergeant, 3 for 4 with kind of a nicer tag. Getting a boost on deploy effects is probably better than Assimilate, because there's not that many Assimilate cards that you're running right now in Nilfgaard decks, whereas there are a lot of deploy effects that you are. And kind of the more engines you run in a non-engine focused deck, which is basically what Nilfgaard is at the moment, it's not really too worried about playing engines, because most of its value comes from playing these sort of card packages like Serret Letho Orcs and whatnot, Kyrenex Unicorn, that sort of stuff that kind of gets you value regardless of engine value, but is good against opponents' engines. You're playing like a value-oriented, control-y kind of archetype in Nilfgaard at the moment. I don't think a couple of Assimilate engines are going to really change that fact, and in fact you're just going to make yourself very vulnerable to removal if you play, you know, 2, 4, 6 engines that are reliant on you playing Assimilate kind of synergistic cards, which at the moment there aren't that many that are very good that you'd play in a Nilfgaard deck, as I said. You know, Rot Tosser you don't see, for example, Stefan Skellen you don't see, Cantarella you don't see, Bribery you don't see, etc, etc, right? There's a lot of them that just aren't good on their own. To make an engine good, like you would have with Thrive maybe for monsters, you want to be able to throw those cards in your deck regardless of the other cards. The fact that you need to like brick your deck with kind of bad or mediocre cards is probably, I think, going to mean that the Assimilate in general isn't that good, even if there are quite a few Assimilate cards you know, that work with that effect. I don't know, though. Of course, we haven't seen all the cards yet, so that might be a bit of a snap judgment, but I don't think this will be good. 3 for 4. Compare it to NECA Warrior. Compare it to NECA. They have a lot higher sort of ceiling. You don't have to build around them as much. Your deck can be kind of regular, and you can play them still. Compared to this, it's just not even close, I think. I think this will be quite weak. Alright, what do we have next? We do, in fact, have, I think we've got to go all the way down here for Queen Italia. This is an 11 provision card, 3 strength, Northern Realms, and deploy effect of spawn and play a base copy of a bronze unit from your hand, and then give it a shield. Very cool card, actually. 11 provisions is a lot for a 3 strength card, I should say. But you get a whole unit. You basically are playing like an operator effect, kind of, but for yourself. And you get a shield on that unit. So not only are you getting kind of an operator that's, a little bit more expensive, but doesn't give your opponent the unit, which is obviously very important, you're also getting a shield on that unit. So what does that mean? You can play this with any engine, basically. You can basically get, another copy of that engine, which, of course, means they need to have more removal to deal with all of your engines. That engine might just get value. Say you play this with, I don't know, just whatever, like Kedwenny Revenant, for example. You shield it up, it's really hard for them to remove. It's another engine that they have to deal with if they want to at all. You're copying that. Your Queen Italia is basically an engine herself. So in these sort of engine spam archetypes that Northern Realms definitely has, I can see this being played, because you're just getting another thing that your opponent has to deal with that they might not be able to deal with. And the shield effect is going to protect that engine at the beginning anyway. If it is something like Revenant that persists on and on, even if it's, using its effect, if its effect gets bigger and bigger, it gets more value and more value the longer it stays, and this will be very powerful on cards like that, I imagine. And probably you can abuse this with other things as well. We talked about the Cintrian Royal Guard in the last video. This is kind of a card that could be abused maybe by Queen Italia, right? Maybe you want to spawn a bunch of those and get real value from their effect. You get the deploy effect on this as well, so the possibilities are almost limitless with this kind of card. Basically, any bronze, you can maybe just abuse it a bit more than you otherwise would. Things like blue stripes maybe as well with Queen Italia could work very well. Scouts in the deck, you know, commandos, go, go, go. I can imagine so many things working well with this card. It is quite expensive, but the effect is very powerful, I think. And I think it should be reasonably doable to get the 8 points from, you know, the expected 8 points from this ability. Maybe not. That is quite you know, a high price that you have to pay for that ability. But definitely, I imagine there'll be some abusable things, some janky strategies maybe going on. I'm imagining blue stripes into Pavetta nonsense and reinforcements on units that want to be copied and stuff like that. Could be very cool. We'll have to see if it's actually viable, but it's definitely a powerful effect and just waiting to be broken, I think, in some way. Okay, next up we have Arnvald. This is a Skellige card. He has 6 provisions and he has 4 strength. Deploy effect of transform a damaged allied unit into a bear abomination. Bear abomination is a 5 strength unit, a beast of course, and I do believe it has a doom tag as well. So basically, what does this mean? You can get 4 points from this ability if you transform a 1 strength damaged enemy allied unit rather. That makes them an 8 for 6, which is pretty good obviously. There's some more synergies in Skellige, of course, with Beasts, with the Beastmaster, with the Corrupted Flaminica as well. So I could see this being played, definitely. 8 for 6 is a very decent, you know, amount of points for provisions, of course. If you're able to get this to work reliably, then yeah, why not throw that in the deck? And it's not even too difficult to make this a 6 for 6, you just have to hit a 3-point damage unit. If self-wounding, if Berserk is going to be an archetype of some kind in Skellige, then I don't see a reason why this wouldn't be played. From, you know, what we know about Skellige at the moment, it seems like it just fits, just works. Seems balanced, seems fair, and seems good in terms of points provisions. I like the design very much. You can play around it as the opponent potentially, but you can also play around it yourself and get that value. So I think that very cool card design. And maybe there'll be even more synergies with Bear Abominations. Not sure about that, but if there are, then this will obviously be even better than it already seems to be, which is to say, I think it'll be quite good. Okay, next we have Visigoths. This is a Northern Realms card. Very cool card art, in my opinion. One of the coolest so far. He just looks like a badass. He looks like Jeremy Corbyn as well. I've heard people say that, and it's very true. He was a UK politician, if you don't know. Anyway, 8 provision card, 5 strength for Northern Realms. Deploy effect of gain charges equal to the number of boosted allied units, and an order effect of damage an enemy unit by 1 with 1 charge to start with. So basically a 6 for 8, gaining extra value for every boosted unit you have. Very cool. Of course, Meve is boosting her units. It fits very well with that leader, with that kind of boosting your own guys archetype. Not really an archetype right now, but who knows, maybe it will be. There's quite a few cards I think that synergize with boosting that we've seen. I might be making that up, but I'm pretty sure. And Visigoths is definitely one of those. Alternatively, he just kind of works in archetypes that are even a thing right now, like Meve. Hubert is running maybe Synthesis, Ocvis. This is another one of those sort of big threatening cards that can synergize very well with Hubert very easily. You buff a few of your allies up with a Lubberkin, with your leader ability, and you can maybe get 3-4 charges on this. Once you get an extra 3 or 4, you're looking at, you know, 9-10 points for 8, which is obviously really good, as long as he doesn't die. But in that sort of engine-focused Meve deck, I don't see why this wouldn't see play. You get quite a few boosted units quite often. Even when he bricks, he's 6 for 8, which isn't bad at all. You're thinking of things like botchling, in terms of when botchling gets removed, that's the same value you get. So I think this is pretty good. If Meve is still somewhat playable, you know, in the new meta that will come from the expansion, then I don't imagine Visigoths not being good. Nice, cool design, and of course, even synergize with things like the Charge archetype, or Dermavand, I suppose, as well. If you want to go that route, mix and match some boosts, some charges, in theory, you could maybe start doing that a little bit more easily with Visigoths now part of the card pool. Very nice card, I think, and hopefully that'll be playable. Okay, Weeping Willow is up next. This is a 8 provision card for Scoia'tael, 5 strength. Yeah, similar to Visigoths in terms of the stats. Shield, deploy, melee, gain vitality with a duration equal to the amount of boosts that the unit has. So, kind of another Sheldon, but going tall rather than just damaging your opponents based on that boost. With Filavandrel, it's effectively a 6-point play for 8. So you definitely need something more in terms of the hand buff realm, you know, to make this work. We do have, of course, Circe, the card I revealed, which hand buffs by 2, so there's a nice synergy there, potentially. That will make this up to a 7-point card for 8, maybe an 8 for 8 with Filavandrel. And of course, there's things like Ithlin in the game, which would turn this into a 9 for 8, plus that Ithlin buff. Obviously, you're going to be very vulnerable to purification effects, firstly, because you've got shield on that, as well as vitality. And of course, tool removal resets are going to hurt this as well pretty badly. So it's very vulnerable to quite a lot of effects. I'm not sure if it will be playable as a result. And there are already things you want to hand buff, things like Sheldon, which are just kind of a better target for hand buff than this, because they kind of distribute those points more evenly than, you know, with Weeping Willow, which is all going up and up and up and tool and vulnerable to Geralt and whatnot. So I don't see this being very good. It's cool though, it has multiple keywords, of course, and it is a bit of hand buff synergy. If there are more cards that do hand buff, of course Circe is one of those. If you're going to go heavy on the hand buff archetype, maybe you would throw this in like a Filavandrel Engine deck. Could definitely be a thing, right? Filavandrel Engine is not even a bad deck right now, and if there's more tools to support that, like the Circe, for example, the Harmony and whatnot, then yeah, maybe you throw this in just as another kind of engine that the opponent has to deal with, or, you know, that gains a ton of points. Either way, I like the design. It's pretty nice, I think. Alright, and the last card we have is Katakan. This is coming back from the old days, of course. Pretty awesome card, it must be said. And 9 provisions for this one. Monster card, 6 strength. Thrive effect as well, as deploy, spawn an Ekimara and summon it to this row. And the Ekimara, of course, 2 strength unit. Nothing special about that. But this Katakan also has the Death Wish ability of repeating the deploy ability, getting you another Ekimara. So basically, if you're able to proc Death Wish on this, a lot of the time, worst case, it's going to be a 10 for 9, right? Because you get the immediate Ekimara of 8 points, 10 points after it dies. If the opponent kills it, if you destroy it with your own Death Wish, easy 10 for 9, which is very good. That's not even to mention you can maybe thrive once or twice with this, play Ice Giant, play play the Griffin, sorry, play Ghoul, play Spear Tip, whatever. Maybe you can even thrive more than twice. I see the potential of this card being really, really crazy. Of course, you got to have that Death Wish synergy. If you're eating this with something like Crone, you're playing into tool removal, sure. Often Crone will do that anyway, so I don't think it's that much of a downside. Stuff like Cyclops, this is a great target. You can throw it, destroy a high-strength engine of the opponent's. Honestly, I don't see why this card wouldn't see play. It just seems very good in terms of the points it will get you most of the time. Kind of like Arc Spore, you know, you would play it, you'd get the immediate value. If the opponent removes it, you get the immediate value from the Death Wish. If not, then you can thrive with it. Kind of the same deal with Katakan, I think, but just a higher kind of stat line and provision cost. So I think this will be good. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't play this. It seems very powerful as long as you're running a Cyclops or 2, you know, some Griffins or whatever. You don't even need to proc the Death Wish. As long as you proc the Thrive once or twice, it's also breaking even or even going above its point per provision cost. So very powerful card, it seems like, judging from, you know, what's good right now and what we've been shown so far. Anyway, that's all the cards, I guess, there. Some just thoughts on what will be good, as always. What will be powerful, what won't be, potentially. Definitely some very cool gold cards revealed in this batch. I am a big fan of quite a few of these, as you can probably tell. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching, guys. I will see you in the next video. Do subscribe if you want more content. And yeah, I'll see you next time.